Norway, the country where one of the most groundbreaking things on TV was a fucking 7-hour train journey.
It began with this broadcast of a train journey from the coastal city of Bergen to the capital, Oslo. The formula was simple. Put a few cameras on a train and watch the scenery go by for 7 hours.
Did you know where that journey would lead, how successful it would be?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I can't imagine it mixing well with Netflix and chill. Delayed departures, premature ejaculation, just don't balance out. But this week, it's not 7-hour train journeys I'm worried about, or premature ejaculation. I'm actually worried about this week's election in Norway. You see, a couple of times on this channel now, I've expressed that I'm a social democrat, not a socialist, and certainly not a capitalist. And I've always summed up social democracy to be the ultimate compromise between capitalism and socialism. Imagine if capitalism and socialism went on a night out, started feeling each other, had a quickie in the back of an Uber, but forgot to use contraception. However, to be a bit more specific here, the essential ingredients to social democracy is wealth redistribution, stronger workers' rights, and a fair healthcare system, all within a mixed economy. So markets and private businesses still remain, but are just more regulated. And along with the rest of Scandinavian countries, social democracy has been particularly popular in Norway with the Social Democratic Labour Party, and not to be confused with this Labour Party, has been the biggest party since 1927. I just feel bad for that one guy sat at home, still waiting for the Communist Red Party to be in the top 3. It's like being in year 11 and waiting for that one girl to still reply to your Snapchat. Guys, she still lost her charger, just give her some time. But what if I was to tell you that only 6 months ago, the polls were showing that the Progress Party was set to break the Norwegian Labour Party's streak as the biggest party. So what we're going to break down for the rest of this video is why the Norwegian Labour Party could just about win again, who are the Progress Party, and what are the lessons we need to learn from this. Since 2021, Jonas Gahr Støre of the Norwegian Labour Party has been Norway's Prime Minister, and he's very much been credited for turning the Labour Party into more of a centrist party. A bit like Keir Starmer over here. And the first few years for Store's government were rough. His party were tanking in the polls. It was scarier to see than that singing lady at the Reform conference.
I'm an insomniac, I'm an insomniac, staring at the ceiling, waiting for my thoughts to switch on. Yes, I'm an insomniac, and no I can hear.
Make it stop, ah.
Sound of that clock, I'm an insomniac.
So how did the party manage to return to the top of the polls 6 months ago? Well, in February this year, Støre appointed former Norwegian Prime Minister Jens Stoltenberg to be the Finance Minister, which is their equivalent of the Chancellor, who decides which taxes go up and which come down. And Stoltenberg's comeback was clearly very popular with voters. Heck, his comeback was so big, it was bigger than the queue of f***ing plonkers outside a Bonnie Blue meet and greet. But let's now talk about the Progress Party, the party that was at risk and still is at risk of overtaking Norway's Labour Party. Now, to my surprise, and maybe to your surprise, I thought a party called the Progress Party would be super progressive. But no, they're just another populist right-wing party. So essentially, the Reform Party.
I'm an insomniac.
I told you, make it stop! At one point this year, the Progress Party was polling ahead of the Labour Party by 8 points. And this all sounds quite familiar, doesn't it? As here in the UK, the Reform Party are the party leading the polls. And there's a clear lesson here for the UK Labour Party to take if they want to climb back up the top. Because aside from having an inconsistent stance on Israel's war crimes, the current main issue with the British Labour Party is the economy. They don't have a radical plan for the economy. And I don't mean in a Liz Truss way. And we need to take a page out from Norway's Labour Party. Because despite Norway's Labour Party becoming more centrist, like our Labour Party, they have still stuck to all their social democratic principles, especially on wealth redistribution. Norway's Labour Party have introduced more cost of living support and tax cuts for young workers, funded via taxing the wealthy. In fact, their tax cuts for young workers is apparently an experiment to see if it will push more young people into getting a job without introducing any benefit cuts. And a lot of that is thanks to Jens Stoltenberg, their popular new finance minister. And I'm not saying Keir Starmer needs to now go replace Rachel Reeves with Gordon Brown, but hey, if he does want to do that, I'm not opposed to it. But what I am saying is that it's clear that one way to win back voters is to cut taxes for working people via taxing the rich. And yeah, I made a similar point to this in my video in April about the elections in Canada and Australia, where I also pitched this. I'm talking about fully funding the specific tax cuts via the capital gains tax. And if you don't know what the capital gains tax is, it's mostly a tax for stockholders. And if you don't know what stockholders are, then watch 3 episodes of Succession, and not only will you know what they are, but you'll also begin talking like one. But this tax cut that the Labour government could very easily do is by cutting the basic rate of income tax by just 2%. And hear me out here. In this country, we have income tax. If you earn £12,500 or more, you have to pay 20% of that in income tax. If you earn £50,000 or more, you have to pay 40% of that in income tax. And then if you earn £125,000 or more, you have to pay 45% of that in income tax. And with the cost of living crisis still ongoing, it's been a daily struggle for many in the working class and the lower middle class to balance their budget, especially with a number of utility bills having increased this month. So now if we reformed capital gains tax to be like income tax, where the higher the stocks you have, the higher the tax you pay, that tax could bring in around £14 billion. And with that money, the Labour government could use that money to fund a 2% cut in income tax for both the working and lower middle class, which would then save these particular households between £250 to £1,000. And that could afford these particular households a number of weeks worth of grocery shopping, or a month of utility bills, or half a year or more of broadband. So yeah, Norway might be known for broadcasting 7-hour train journeys, but when their Labour Party started derailing in the polls, they didn't just sit back and vibe with the dread. They taxed the rich, but also cut taxes for workers, and most importantly, embraced their core social democratic principles, even while shifting to the centre. And we're not going to find out the full answer to this until later in the week, but could true social democracy be the cure to crushing right-wing populism?